Hello and welcome to another demonstrational video. This time it's the Encore, the Elddis Encore 275. This one's a 2021 model. So as always, we'll run you through the outside and then we'll move on to the controls on the inside. First things first, we have the fuel filler, which is just here. So you need the engine key to open that up with the key slot into there. Underneath that we have the AdBlue additive. This model's fitted with the AdBlue tank. There's an indication on the dashboard that comes up when that needs filling. So that's an additive that reduces the emissions on the exhaust gases. Okay, so on this pillar here there is an indication about tyre pressures. It's worth referring to the actual tyres themselves because it will use specialist camping tyres which are capable of containing higher pressures. But there is an indication there to tell you what your tyre pressure should be. To open the bonnet on this model, it's this lever here. So if you just pull that lever, that reduces that opens the first catch on the bonnet, and then it's just a case of lifting the catch underneath the bonnet, which we'll come to in a second. While we're here, this has got darkening blinds on the cab windows, and to open those, you just pinch these two things together here, draw this across, and it's a magnetic strip that holds it in position. So that's how you darken off the cab windows. And then the actual windscreen, very similar thing. You just pinch these two things together here, draw this across, and then there's a section that allows you to go beyond the, I think it's got a rain sensor in there, but it's the holder for the rear view mirror, which incorporates the monitor for the rear view camera. And then it's a magnetic strip on this side of it here, and then that corresponds to a magnetic strip on the other side, which again you just pinch the two things together, draw that across, and they meet in the middle. So that's the darkening blinds for the windscreen. When you push this back, just make sure that these concertina blinds go back in straight. And also when you push this back in, make sure that they clip. You can hear it click into position. It just stops these sliding across as you're cornering, for obvious reasons. You don't want the blind sliding across while you're driving. Same thing on this. When you're pushing this back, just make sure that this bar here goes straight and it keeps the blinds in good condition. Again, just click those into position like so that they're fixed, and then the blinds don't draw across as you're driving. Okay, so underneath the bonnet then, just lift the bonnet up. Okay, so the stay goes into that red catch there. We have under here the washer fluid fill, which is on that blue cap there, the coolant, brake fluid, engine oil fill, dipstick there on the red with the red handle on the end. If you ever need to jump start this vehicle or jump start another vehicle from it, it's done so underneath the bonnet. The battery is underneath the floor on the passenger side. There's like a plate that you unscrew on the floor. So just underneath here, if you can't get this open, just put your key into that little groove there, slide the cap off, and it reveals a metal tab. So your positive and red cable goes onto that one there, and the black or earth goes onto that little tab there. So that's how you jump start the vehicle or jump start another vehicle from this one. Underneath here we've got the chassis plates. So this is the one to refer to. This is the second stage chassis plate. Although it says 3650 on there, it's got 3.5 on this plate here. Okay, so I'll go around anti-clockwise. This is just storage, and again they're lockable, so you've just got access to storage and they are lockable. The next thing here to note is there's an external main socket. So if you had a fan running outside, or you wanted a light outside, or any mains appliance, that's where you plug into. So that's drawing power that you're feeding into the vehicle from the other side. So that's just a socket on the door side of the motorhome. if you want to sit outside with a light on or any other appliance. That's an external 12 volt, the round one there. So again, it just feeds out the 12 volt supply. It's already in the motorhome and that's coming from your battery. This is an external gas supply, so that feeds from the bottles. Again, they're around the other side, but this is just an external barbecue point. So for this, you actually need a little pipe attachment that clips into here. When you push that in, this collar here slides forward, and then to release this short metal pipe that goes into there, you just push that collar back. To turn that on, you just turn this tap here. So at the moment it's facing that way. If it's facing that way, it's switched on. We do have the little metal attachments in the shop. The way they work is you put them, it's about that long, you put the short metal pipe into there, attach a flexible hose to the other end of the metal attachment, and then that goes off to your barbecue or heater or whatever it is you're using outside. So we do have those in stock, and I can probably get one of those. These vents here next to the habitation door are for the fridge, so it draws cool air in at the bottom, expels warm air at the top. That's ventilation for the fridge. It's important that they're kept clean, free of debris. Whenever you're washing the vehicle, especially if you're using a power washer, be careful not to spray up into those vents. They're designed, you probably see better here, for water to run off them and expel the water outwards. So if you spray a water source directly into there, it's open on the other side, so you're in danger of wetting the vehicle behind the fridge, which isn't desirable. This one's got a magnetic catch for the door, so that's the door stay, it's magnetic. This model has been fitted with an awning. Okay, so there is a separate video on our YouTube channel which I'll try and remember to send the customer at the same time as this video, but basically the awning winder goes into a little metal a loop that's on the end of there. The awning winder, while I'm here, just so I don't forget, is housed just on the inside of the door. So this is the awning winder here. There's a strengthening bar to keep the fabric taut on the awning itself, which is just here. So that's where that's housed. Okay, next one along then is the toilet. This is a cassette toilet system, so anything that goes into the toilet ends up in this cassette here. There's an indication on the toilet inside, which I'll show you in a second when we go inside, to tell you how full this cassette is. So to empty this then, what you do is you lift that handle up there, slide the whole cassette out. Okay, and so then to empty it, slide this funnel forward, unscrew the cap off the end completely. I'll just screw it back on for demonstration. Once you've unscrewed that, turn the whole cassette upside down and pour away from the funnel. As you're doing so, press this button in here. It lets air in as the liquid is being expelled from there. What that does is it stops it slushing around and splashing back. Okay, so once you've emptied it, what I tend to do then is slide this back here, open up this valve like so, you can see it's just opened, fill it back up to the top with fresh water, give it a shake and a swirl around, and then empty it again. It's then ready to add the chemical. So what you need to do is just pour the desired amount of chemical into the bottom here and line it with a little bit of water in the bottom, and it's ready to use again. There is a measuring device on the end of this here, so if you take that off, it'll actually measure out the liquid chemical if that's what you choose to use. Or you can actually just put the sachets into there, which are just a bit easier to use really. When it's time to put this back in, make sure that this valve is fully closed. You can hear it just click a little bit past there, so that has to be straight in order for it to go back in. Slide that back and it's ready to put back in the motor. When you're taking this over to the disposal point on the sides, you can see it's got wheels on the bottom, and this has got an extendable handle which you just lift up like so, and that will allow you to drag the whole cassette on its wheels over to the disposal point. Okay, so to put this back in its housing, you just line the wheels up on the little runners there, slide this back in, and just make sure that the handle goes into its slot. Again, lockable, just use the habitation keys for that. This model's got a twin camera on it, so when you select reverse, it selects the camera that's pointing down. I think you can actually drive with the one that's pointing back to aid your vision when you're sort of changing lanes and on the motorways. Just make sure that's kept clean. If it's wet, you will get a distorted vision through that lens because there'll be water on the lens. Okay, as we're working around the motorhome then, I'll just go back to, I've missed something here. On this side, the waste tank outlet, so everything that goes down the kitchen sink, the shower and bathroom sink ends up in a tank underneath the motorhome, and there's an indication on the control panel, again we'll come to that in a second. You can see there it says closed on it. If you turn this around like so, that opens up the waste tank, so that's where you drain your waste tank from. So again, that's just a simple turn handle. If you remember that tap is just behind the rear axle, so if you have to line it up with like a cattle grid or a drain that's on a site, then you know roughly where to put your wheels. And while we're on that subject, the freshwater tank drain is here, so that's blue, and the other one is grey for grey water. And the reason for this draining down is in really freezing conditions. If you leave any water anywhere in any of the vessels inside the motorhome and it freezes, it can expand, it will crack the tanks and the pipework. So it's very important that you drain that down in winter, and that's how you do it. Exactly the same operation, but that is your fresh water tank. To fill your fresh water tank, you just simply put a hose pipe into this and it will fill up the tank via a tube and just fill it until it literally pours back out. Okay, so you know it's full then. Again, lockable, you just slide that over and lock it like so. So that's how you fill your freshwater tank. There's an indication on the inside on the control panel to tell you how full or empty your tank is. This is the gas locker, so this is where your gas bottles will go. It'll take 2 gas bottles, so 2 gas bottles into here. Looking at it, I think this will take 2 6-kilogram bottles. So 1 bottle goes in there on the stand, and then those straps that you can see there go around the bottle to keep it in position. Again, another stand here, and then these straps go around the bottle. The pressure from the gas bottles is regulated by this device here. So what happens is, this tube here, that end goes into the bottle. This end screws onto here, which I'll do for you either now or on the day when you're collecting it, and that's what feeds the gas into the motorhome. This has got what they call a crash valve on it. Okay, so you can, in theory, travel with your gas switched on. If you're going to do that, just obviously take necessary precautions, but it's designed to do it. And what happens is, if it senses that there's an impact, it will pop out this little valve here, that little yellow valve. To get that back in, you've got to push it in. It's like an Allen fitting or a torque screw fitting. You've got to push that back in and turn it anti-clockwise in order for that to stay in. So if you find that you switched your gas on and you're not getting any gas through, then that's probably the first port of call to identify what's stopping the gas. Okay, so that's your gas pressure regulator. Again, lockable. That's your gas locker. This motorhome is fitted with the top of the range Elddis system for heating. So when you switch the boiler on, whether it be for your water or heating the motorhome, if it's on gas, then the gas exhaust is expelled from this vent here. Okay, so it's not abnormal to see steam and the fumes rising from this when you're heating it. If it's a cold day and you're heating it on gas, you will see the exhaust coming from there. That's where the main supply comes into the motorhome. So this is where you're feeding your 240 volt sockets on the inside of the motorhome. So that's where your mains goes in. I think we'll move on to the inside of the motorhome now. I think that's it for the external things. They are vents. I think this may have an extractor over the kitchen, but I think that's what they are. We'll check that when we go in. Alright, so we'll move on to the inside then. Okay, main habitation door. So yeah, main habitation door is centrally locked, so it'll actually lock it with the remote key. got a bin on the door. Okay, so first things first, when we're in the motorhome here, this is where the control panel is. So it's dead straightforward, this one. To switch everything on, you've got a master switch there. So basically, you can see all the lights coming on and off when I switch that on or off. Okay, so that basically switches on the motorhome, so that gets everything working. You've got a separate light switch here. Obviously that's straightforward enough, it just switches the lights on. Pump, okay, so what that does is it pumps the water from the tank through all the systems, through all the pipe work, fills up the boiler, and then eventually it'll come out of your tap. So to get water from your taps, that's got to be switched on. There is a procedure for this. So when you first come to use it and you're filled up with water, what you need to do is switch this onto the hot side, so all the way over there, lift it up slightly, and you'll get spluttering coming out of the tap. That's because it's pushing all the air out of the pipes. You need to wait until you get a pure flow of water coming out on the hot side, then switch it to cold. Wait until you get a pure flow of water coming out of there. If you don't do that and you switch your boiler on, you're just heating thin air inside the boiler. So you need to fill up the boiler, all the associated pipe work, and you do that by waiting until you get a pure flow of water coming out of the end of the tap. Similarly, when you're draining this down, so when you open up the drain valve, which I showed you outside on the freshwater tank, make sure you open these taps up. What that does is it lets the water go out of the pipe work, but it lets the air in as the water's being dropped out from the tank. If you don't open those taps, it will retain water inside the tap cartridge and spout, and that's where it'll freeze, and therefore it'll probably end up cracking the tap. So in freezing conditions, drain the fresh water down, open up your taps. Back to this then. Okay, so we've got the light switch, that's your warning light. To scroll through the menus on here, you're just simply pressing the buttons. So water level, 32%. Wastewater level 0. There's a settings menu there, but I won't go into that just for the purposes of this video. It's explained in the instructions. Next one along is you can select which battery you want to use. Now, I would just tend to leave this on leisure battery, which it is now. You can select your engine battery by pressing the enter button. Leave it on leisure unless your leisure battery is completely flat and you need to switch lights on in an emergency. Okay, so on the leisure battery we've got 12.2 volts. Not surprised by that because we've got the lights on and the circuitry all switched on. Scroll through this again. Okay, 12.2 volts on the leisure battery. Okay, and then we're back to the main menu. So it's a dead straightforward control panel that you're just scrolling through on these buttons here. Underneath that we've got the heating controls. So again, as I said, it's the Elddis system. To switch this on, you just press this button here. Wait for that to come to life. Okay, so to get into the menu, press menu. This top system here is allowing you to select your temperature. Okay, so whichever temperature you set there, that's what the motorhome will end up being. Okay, so 22 degrees room temperature. Next one down rather is your water temperature. I would just leave that on hot and mix it with the cold water, so you end up with a lot of warm water. So I mean, you can adjust it, but again, I would just probably leave that on hot and mix it with the cold. Next one down is you're selecting your power source, so how you want to heat the motorhome and the water. So this one deals with electric. So if you press that, you've got 1 kilowatt of electric, 2 kilowatts of electric, 3 kilowatts of electric. Okay, the reason for that is if you're on a low ampage site, let's say it's more common abroad, if you're on a really low ampage site, then you'll blow the fuse if you put it on 3 kilowatts. If you switch your microwave on and have this on 3 kilowatts, it'll blow the fuse. Okay, so that's the reason that it allows you to select the different power sources. Gas, so you can run it perfectly well on gas and electric together. And indeed, if you come to it and it's really cold or you want to heat up your water very fast, put this on 3 kilowatts and switch the gas on. You know the gas is on because it turns green. Okay, there is a settings menu. Again, I'm not going to go into that. It is all explained in the manual, but as just a user of it, really, you shouldn't need to go into there. I think it will allow you to set timings and things in there, but it is explained in the manual. But just to get you up and running, that's basically it for the Aldi control panel. To switch it off, just a long press on that button there. So what that does, that Aldi heating, is it pumps coolant or glycol through the radiators. The tank for that is just in this wardrobe here in the bathroom area. So just keep an eye on that level. When it's hot, it will expand. So if it's on minimum or even below minimum, when you switch it on, you need to check the level when it's actually switched on, because it will expand. Does need to use the recommended Aldi glycol for that one. Okay, so that's your heating dealt with. The bed arrangement on this, again, very straightforward. You just simply pull these two together. There's a cushion there that sits into the centre. There's some additional cushions which are just in the wardrobe as well, which I think are required to make the bed up. They probably just go down the edges. So you just pull these sections out. You can see here how that would work. So you just pull that out, pull this one to the end, so pull that cushion to the end here, and then the backrests, you put those flat, and then there's some additional cushions to bridge whatever gap is left from that. To swivel the seats around, there's 2 little levers here, so if you pull that lever, these are both captain's chairs, so the driver and the passenger's seat will both swivel. You can see there, that's how they swivel around. You do have to sort of go forward and back a little bit, or recline the seat forward in order to get it to go all the way around, but those seats will completely turn around so they're facing this way. Your reversing camera is there. I think you can actually switch between the 2 cameras using that switch just there, but when you select reverse, it will go to the camera which is pointing down. Okay, so fridge, the way this is a 3-way, what they call a 3-way fridge. Okay, so it'll use 3 different power sources. So to switch it on, press the button there, and then it will allow you to switch between which power source you want. Okay, so first one is a picture of the battery. That's 12 volt. It uses the engine alternator to cool the fridge. It really only is transit cooling that. It won't get cold. It's just to keep it cold while you're traveling. Next one along is gas. Okay, so it will run perfectly efficiently, get cold and stay cold on gas. So you'd use that when you're off grid and you haven't got an electric supply. Next one along is mains electric. So that one there, mains electric. It's telling us that we've got a fault there because we're not connected to electric. Okay, so if that happens, then further investigation is required to find out why we've not got power. This one here is auto, so that's quite handy, and that's what I would leave it on if I were you, is just leave it on auto. It will automatically select the most relevant power source given the fuel that it's got. So it'll look for electric first. If it can't find that, it'll try and find gas. If it can't find either of those, or when you start the engine, it will go on to 12 volt. This has to ignite on gas, and you can, when you switch it on, you can probably just hear it clicking. When you first connect your gas bottles, it takes a while for the gas to get through the pipework and to the fridge. So you might get that fault code just appear again there. What you need to do then is switch it off, switch it back on. You might need to do that 2 or 3 times in order for the gas to reach the fridge and ignite. You've got a temperature control here. The reason for that is on a really hot day like today, you want the fridge to work harder to get cold. On a really cold day, if you put it on full, it'll just ice up. So that's the reason for the temperature control there. Okay, switch that off. So to open the fridge, you need to just slide these little bars. Okay. So you've got your freezer at the top, fridge at the bottom. If you're going to leave this fridge for any length of time, so if you're going to sort of like lay it up for 6 months, if you're not going to use it for any length of time, leave the fridge door open. Otherwise, it's magnetically sealed, so you'll get stagnant air building up in the fridge, and it can start to smell. So yeah, just leave the fridge open if it's not being used. The table for the lounge area is stored in this area here. The hob, the only thing I can say to you about this is if you're using this electric ring here, wait for it to cool down. If that's when you switch it off, it retains its heat for a long time. So if that's still glowing red and you pull this glass lid down, it'll just crack the lid. So yeah, good little tip that. Okay, so on to the bathroom then. To use the toilet, basically lift the lid. On the front here we have this lever. Okay, so what that's doing is it's opening and closing the blade which I showed you on the cassette outside. So to use it, you just open the lid, slide open the blade, use the toilet, press the flush button, which is this one here, and the flush comes from that nozzle there and swirls around. Then when you finish, just make sure you close it up, because if you forget to do that and you set off travelling and the toilet's getting towards being full, you get it sloshing around in the bowl, and sometimes it can spill over, which you don't want. When the toilet's full, a little light comes on there and illuminates, but if you use the blue chemical, you can actually see down into the toilet. You can see the level that that blue chemical has reached. Okay, so that concludes the main controls on this model. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those on the day that you collect, or indeed in the interim before you collect. But I think that's everything covered, so we'll look forward to seeing you on the happy day that you collect this beautiful new Elddis motorhome.